Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
And then we'll go ahead and move into the San Francisco 49ers and this upcoming season and how it's a do or die season for these guys. Since 2019, these guys have had one Super Bowl appearance, 3 NFC championship games with no Super Bowl ring to show for it. And so it's reached a point now with the San Francisco 49ers where, you know, they've been plagued with injuries at the quarterback position. You know, obviously last year was a terrible year for them. Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo, all going down in one season. You know, that's unheard of in the NFL. You know, 3 quarterbacks, your first, second, and third string quarterbacks all going down. And they all went down at tough times. Trey Lance early on in the season, Jimmy Garoppolo towards the end of the season, and then Brock Purdy in arguably his biggest game of his career, the NFC Championship game against a very, very tough Philadelphia Eagles team. But, you know, aside from all of that, I think the clock is ticking for this 49ers for this 49ers football team because obviously we all know these guys have the best constructed roster in the NFL, but obviously with Trent Williams aging right now, really carrying the offensive line, he's about 35 years old. He's not going to be coming back next year. And then you got to pay these guys contracts. You know, Nick Bosa's up for extension real soon. You also got to pay Brandon Ayuk really soon. If you already paid one receiver, do you have enough room, enough money to pay for another receiver? And what happens if this season doesn't go as planned? It doesn't cap off with a Super Bowl. Do you maybe go in a different direction and grab a quarterback? I think they just might have to do that. But, you know, for the San Francisco 49ers, how big of a season is it for them in 2023?
I think at this point now, for them, the 49ers have always been held back either by health or just circumstance at the quarterback position. So, you know, 2019, Jimmy Garoppolo, you know, they had a chance to win that game, and unfortunately, the Niners don't win that game. Mahomes magic. The next year, you know, injuries catch up. You know, the year after that, then you have the whole situation with the dropped interception against the Rams. The following year, again, you know, unlucky with their quarterback position getting hurt. I think for them, it's just a matter of staying healthy. You know, Kittle, he tends to get injured. The offensive line has just been, you know, outside of Trent Williams, when you look at it, it's not a particularly great unit. And at the same time, you have those wide receivers out there. I feel like this is a year that the Niners have to put it together just because of the amount of talent that they have at a singular point of time. Like, I don't think you're going to have a better collection of guys at one point, because next year you're going to have a bunch of free agents. You're going to have to pay Nick Bosa. You know, Brandon Ayuk's extension is going to be coming up. You know, you have a lot going on with this team, and I think the NFL is a very, very short window. You're not going to be able to compete every single year. You know, some years you're probably going to get unlucky with injuries, and the Niners have gotten unlucky with injuries. So I think this is a year where they have to look at it like it's a do or die situation. You know, every year we're competing, every year we're making deep playoff ones, but we're not getting the job done. I think this is the year that they have to look at themselves and think, okay, this is the year we have to at least try to stay healthy, number one, and number two, just be able to compete. And so for the Niners, I think just health is the biggest key for them in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree the window's closing soon. For them, it's they get to the end and bam, something happens, or there's an injury, or you know, the quarterback's not up to par with the other team's quarterback. And it's like I said, it's those two things really. It's the injuries and their quarterbacks, you know, not showing up to performance in big time games. We've seen that with Jimmy G against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and a couple other times with him in playoff games, playoff moments. You know, I can't say Brock Purdy because he got hurt last year. Trey Lance got hurt, but for them, it's, you know, a key thing. Can they stay healthy throughout a full season, especially with that type of offense and defense that they have? Them for health is the number one key thing. Can a quarterback stay healthy for them going into the playoffs? So, I mean, yeah, it's boom or bust for Kyle Shanahan. I feel like, you know, it's his opportunity to win the Super Bowl. I feel like he should have had a Super Bowl under his belt already. It's about time he gets one, and I feel like it's kind of coming down. So I do put them on the pedestal that it's Super Bowl bust for them.
Is Kyle Shanahan on the hot seat for you if he doesn't deliver?
Not really. Yeah, not really. I feel like Kyle Shanahan is one of those coaches that, you know, he's performed very well, and with the circumstances, a lot of people say that, hey, it's not his fault that they lost this game, or hey, it's not his fault that they, it's his quarterback fault. But that's what they're preaching for. This guy knows how to control the offensive team. He can win without a quarterback. But when they get to that big time game, that blame falls onto the quarterback. So I mean, I do know the Niners probably not gonna put him on the hot seat, but if I was a GM owner, he's gonna get some heat from me.
So, would you guys say the Niners are probably under the most pressure this year to win a Super Bowl out of every team?
For me, yeah.
I mean, they're definitely up there. I think them and like the Eagles and the Cowboys.
I don't see the Eagles. I really don't see the Eagles.
I mean, they kind of have.
I don't think the Eagles are under a lot of pressure though.
Why aren't they?
The Niners?
I mean, when you look at the roster that they have like last year, there was no excuses not to win the Super Bowl, and they were considered a young team. Everybody excused it. This year, like they have a complete roster. I think it would go the Niners. I don't think
a lot of people excused the Super Bowl last year. It was a close one. There was no excuses. They just lost. That's it.
Yeah, but I'm saying with the roster that they have, though, like you can't point at a specific spot of the Eagles and be like, okay, they're kind of weak in that. That makes sense why they lost. I mean, on every single level, these guys are a complete roster. And then if you're not able to win a Super Bowl, it's not particularly, I'm looking at Jalen Hurts. I'm looking at the entire roster as it is. Why they should be under pressure when people look at it to win a Super Bowl. I think the Niners and Cowboys are definitely ahead of them. Just because, especially a team like the Cowboys, I mean, every single year, the expectation for them is to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, that's a delusion in their fans, but they're definitely one of the teams up there. But when I look at the Eagles, I mean, their roster is built to go to the Super Bowl, built to win the Super Bowl, so they should be under pressure just because of what they have constructed.
I mean, the thing is, I disagree with Philly because I just think, of course, we all know their roster construction and how they've been building their team and they're up there with the Niners for, arguably the best constructed roster in all of football. And obviously Jalen Hurts took an extreme leap this past season, MVP level type of leap. And that's exactly why they made it to the Super Bowl. But, unfortunately, they just didn't win a Super Bowl. They ended up losing to obviously the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And, obviously we all know how that game went. It's not like, they underperformed or anything like that. They just played to the best of their ability. And then obviously, a couple of things just didn't go their way. But when I think of pressure, I think of, consistently, underperforming and underachieving each and every season. Obviously, like if the Philadelphia Eagles made it to 3 NFC Championship games and 1 Super Bowl and they'd come away with no Super Bowl, I would 100% be in agreement with you that, obviously they're probably going to be one of the teams under the most pressure. But I just don't see it that way because I think their window is wide open right now. Well, obviously with how wide open the NFC is, these guys are going to be in the NFC Championship game with ease, with their eyes closed, just how it was last year when they had that bye. They ended up playing the Giants. They waxed them. They ended up playing the Niners. Brock Purdy gets hurt, so we'll never know how that game would have ended. They ended up waxing the Niners, and then they just faced a real tough test in the Super Bowl. It's going to be interesting to see them, have a tough test before the Super Bowl and see how they're able to react to that. That way, they're kind of, built for the Super Bowl if they end up matching up with the Kansas City Chiefs again, or if it's the Bengals or any other top team in the AFC. But I don't think when I think of pressure, I don't think about them initially first. I would probably say the Buffalo Bills would be one team that's probably under the most pressure to deliver because we've been hearing for years about, this Josh Allen guy and how great of a quarterback he is and how he has his cannon of an arm and all that stuff. But come postseason time, there's not really much to show for it. Like obviously he had that one great game against the Kansas City Chiefs where they went toe for toe and unfortunately a coin flip really decided that game. But they had an opportunity again to overtake them, but they came up short. They had an opportunity again, to make a name for themselves. This past season, they were hunting for that number 1 overall seed in the AFC in order for them to secure home field advantage so they could play a home playoff game. They weren't able to secure a home field advantage throughout the entirety of the playoffs, but they had a home playoff game. And what happened? They just got outplayed by Joe Burrow from start to finish. There was never a point in that game where the Buffalo Bills are like, we could turn this thing around. The Bengals are starting to slip away. There was never a point in that game. The Bengals controlled that from start to finish, and literally they were the home team. And so I think the Bills, the Niners, probably the 2 teams that are under the extreme pressure to win a Super Bowl this upcoming year. The Dallas Cowboys, they say they have Super Bowl expectations every year, and they just end up coming up short. So it's like even when they had a mid roster, they would say Super Bowl or bust. So it's just like, we're just gonna have to see it to believe it. But for me, the two teams would be the Niners and then the Bills. But the Bills would definitely be over the Niners for the teams under the most pressure to win a Super Bowl this season.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. Just because the Bills, outside of that one game that Josh Allen had, I think that's kind of boosted his stock. And now you look back since then, he wasn't able to overtake the Chiefs. He hasn't been able to overtake. You had people saying he's right there as a 1B to Mahomes. People went as far as saying that, and then ever since then, some people don't even have him in their top 2, top 3. So I do think that the Bills are under like an immense amount of pressure. I think the Niners. For the most part, when I look at them, I don't think people are like the Niners keep underperforming. I think for them, it's more so of like a circumstance thing than it is more so of underperforming. Because I do think when the Niners are healthy and they're in the playoffs, they're going to perform like 100%. They're going to get the job done. Some things unfortunately just didn't go their way. They dropped the interception, the injuries that they had the year before. They had 18 guys on IR that 2020 season. The year after this year as well, your quarterback getting injured. So I think for them, it's more so about circumstances. But the Bills, I 100% agree. It's about Josh Allen just performing in these games that they need him.
Hear me out on this idea. This is an idea I've been floating around for about 2 weeks now about the Niners. And I think, okay, let's say the Niners get to another NFC Championship game. They just can't get over the hump. They lose to whether it's the Philadelphia Eagles or Dallas Cowboys, whoever it is. They just don't end up going back to the Super Bowl, but they get stuck at the NFC Championship game. Do they just go into the free agency market and sign a guy like Kirk Cousins to solve their quarterback issues?
I think they definitely look at their quarterback position, like 100%. That's because like every single year, people have been kind of bugging Kyle Shanahan about, let's get a quarterback. Whether they could have attempted to get a guy like Aaron Rodgers, or they could have attempted to get a guy like Kirk Cousins, or
even Tom Brady when he was a free agent.
Tom Brady when he was a free agent, like they've always bugged Kyle Shanahan about getting a quarterback. And his system is built to be able to enhance any quarterback that he puts in there. But the thing about a system is that it's only limited as far as the guy that you're putting in there. When you have a great system, it kind of covers the weaknesses of a quarterback. You're having a lot going on. You have great wideouts and great options to throw to. But when it comes to these fine margins, that's when you see the great quarterbacks show up. The Joe Burrows, the Patrick Mahomes, all these big time quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts. You look at Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts. He has a great system around him. He has great wide receivers, great offensive line. But that was probably the best game of his entire career. Just based off how he performed. He's making throw after throw. So your systems only goes as far as the guy that's throwing the football. So, Jimmy G, he was built for that system, but, when it comes to these fine margins, he wasn't able to get the job done. So I think they're going to definitely look into free agency like, hey, we need a quarterback now. Kirk Cousins would definitely fit the system. He's a borderline top 10 quarterback. He would come in and slot right away into this Kyle Shanahan system. So
I don't believe so. I feel like Kyle Shanahan, he's too much in control. Way too much in control. This guy had opportunities to get Rodgers. He had opportunities to get Brady. He had other opportunities to get better quarterbacks, but he's stuck with Jimmy G. He's stuck with Trey Lance, and he's sticking with Brock Purdy. Regardless of how far they go, if they go 13-3, 13-4, 12, 14-3, go deep into the playoffs, and Brock Purdy's the guy leading them there, he's not going to go into free agency and say, I need a better quarterback. He's the type of coach that I'm in control. If I get a star quarterback, I can't do what I want with him. I can't run the plays I want. He's going to do this. He's going to want to make his own calls. That's the type of person I think Shanahan is. That's why I don't see him succeeding or winning the chip. I feel like that's been a problem for him for many years. He hasn't accepted him being second fiddle to a star quarterback and him being a coach rather than somebody trying to control the position, acting like he knows the position more than the quarterback does. So for me, I don't see that happening. They're going to do phenomenally well this year with Brock Purdy or whoever's behind quarterback. And he's going to be like, oh, we're just still a step away. Hey, it's unlucky this year. Next year, we're going to go right back with the quarterback. And plus, like you guys mentioned before this, the money issue. Kirk Cousins is the type of quarterback that's going to guarantee $25 to $30 million on his contract. I don't think the Niners have that. So, yeah, I don't see them going into free agency looking for a quarterback.
But the thing is, though, I think Kirk Cousins elevates this offense better than any quarterback they have on their roster. Like 100%, he elevates this roster. And when they drafted Trey Lance, I think we all agreed and said that, now Kyle Shanahan has the ability to open up his playbook a little wider, and you run different things because now he has a dual threat quarterback. And so it's like we all said that if Trey Lance was going to hit for these guys, the sky was the limit for these guys. So it's like these guys are going to be able to do whatever they wanted on offense, and they wouldn't be stopped because now they got a dual threat quarterback. They're following every other team in the league. But I mean, now Brock Purdy's in under center now, and Trey Lance he's fighting for the second string position with Sam Darnold.
I do think though, like if Trey Lance is going to be able to try to compete for this quarterback position, if Brock Purdy's probably going to end up starting the season, but if he's struggling, he ends up coming to the system and he somehow is struggling, which I don't think is possible in this system that's built for a quarterback. But if he ends up struggling, I think it'll work out fine. I think he'll be able to. I think Trey Lance could be built for this system what Kyle Shanahan is finally looking for in a quarterback. So,
but the thing is, though, do the Niners have that type of time to wait and have him develop again with this perfectly constructed roster? Because that's how I'm thinking about it right now. If these guys are consistently knocking on the door and are unable to get over the hump because of the quarterback position, why not just sign Kirk Cousins to a 1 to 2 year deal worth $25 to $30 million a year and have him lead the team to a Super Bowl run? I think if Kyle Shanahan gets his hands on Kirk Cousins with every majority of the guys on this roster back next year, these guys are going to win the Super Bowl with their eyes closed. That's just like there's no doubt in my mind these guys end up winning the Super Bowl with ease with a better quarterback under center. And I don't even rate Kirk Cousins like that. Obviously I know he's going to be done with this. He's going to be done with us once the season is over, but he's better than any quarterback they have on their roster. And with the Niners, time is not on their side. If they had like an extremely young roster, like I understand it, but their offensive line is mid. Trent Williams is doing all the heavy carrying on that offensive line. He's not going to be there next year. He might come back if they end up fixing that quarterback position, but I highly doubt it. And it's like, obviously their window of opportunity is closing really, really soon. And so it's like, I just think signing Kirk Cousins might be a very solid move for them, and it might end up paying off because that's the only thing that's been holding them back for all these years. They don't necessarily have the time to go back into the draft and redraft the quarterback. They don't have the type of time to go back to Trey Lance and try to develop him again. Like if the Niners wanted to do that, they would have gone with Trey Lance in this training camp, but they've made it very strong and clear that Brock Purdy is their guy. Although I disagree with that. I completely don't understand why they would go with Brock Purdy, but it worked for them towards the end of last season when he took over as a starting quarterback. They were able to rip off a lot more.
But that's the thing though. Like, it's not about time. Like, they drafted Trey Lance with the intention of, this guy's going to start and he's going to play for us. When you look at Brock Purdy last season, he was a rookie. Let's not forget Brock Purdy was a rookie. This guy isn't some sort of vet. He's not a guy that was a journeyman or anything. He was a rookie. He came in, he fit what they needed to do in the system. I just don't understand the development part of what Trey Lance is going to be needed. Like what development exists for this. Now, of course, there's always growing pains with young quarterbacks, but that even existed with Brock Purdy. But Trey Lance coming out, was infinitely more talented than a guy like Brock Purdy. So he's going to be coming into a system that enhances quarterbacks. So I don't really see it as like he's going to need development, like some extra reps. Like, it's just he's coming into a system that enhances quarterbacks. And same way Brock Purdy was a rookie last season, but he looked perfectly fine in that system. Trey Lance might even be better in this system. So that's just how I see it. I don't think it's a time thing. I think if Brock Purdy begins to struggle, they have no problem pulling him out and just slotting in Trey Lance. So I don't when they have Brock Purdy as their guy, it's more so of like, okay, extension of last season. He did what he needed to do last season for us at the starting quarterback position. But it's now like, oh, this is our guy for the future. This guy, we're going to put him in there. He's going to be the starting quarterback for us for the foreseeable future. It's more so he's the guy that's getting the job done for us right now. But if he doesn't, we have no problem putting in Sam Darnold or putting in Trey Lance.
I get that. I get that. Obviously, you want to go with the quarterback that brought you a lot of success towards the end of the season. But the thing is, though, I just feel like it's not necessarily from a development standpoint with Trey Lance. I just feel like he's been riding the bench for so long. And last year, it was everything was looking up for him. He was coming into the training camp as the QB1. They made it very, very clear from the start that Jimmy G was not going to be the starting quarterback for this team, and they were looking to trade him. There was no buyers available, in the market, And so, they told him, you're going to be our backup. We'll make you the highest paid backup, but don't think about getting onto the field unless some sort of injury happens to Trey Lance. And unfortunately, week 2 comes around and they end up having some sort of crazy, very tough injury for Trey Lance. And now the season is going in a different direction, but they ended up starting Jimmy G, a guy that's very familiar with the system. But for Trey Lance, my thing is, I just feel like he needs a lot more playing time for us to kind of, have an idea of how he's going to look with this offense, how he's going to look in this system and with this Niners team. I just feel like he's only started maybe a handful of games, maybe even less than that. I know he started maybe a couple of games, maybe 2-3 years ago, Cardinals, Texans, or something like that, and then obviously week 1 last year against the Bears. But we can't really fault him for that game. It was literally a tsunami in Chicago. But I just think, like, you have to throw him out there. You have to throw him out into the fire at some point. And I feel like even if Brock Purdy isn't good this season and you end up having to go back to Trey Lance, I'm not too sure how good of an offense these guys can be, how good of a team these guys can be, because we haven't seen much of Trey Lance. That's just really my only issue. I know Trey Lance can elevate this offense, but you need time with that. You have to be able to have him have reps with the first team in training camp and have reps in game, be the starting quarterback from week to week, so you can see him get better and better. But I'm not too sure if throwing him into the fire midseason is going to be any use or bring any success to the Niners, because of just the time that they haven't put into Trey Lance, because of what they're doing with Brock Purdy right now. And so that's just really my only issue with it. And I think, at the end of the day, like, you're not going to have this nice of a roster for 10, 15 years. You probably only have this good of a roster maybe 5-7 years max, and then these guys might move in a different direction because of obviously the money issue. And some guys just get to a point where they understand that we gave it our best shot, and unfortunately our best wasn't enough, and so we're just going to go into a different situation and get paid a little bit more money. And it's not going to be better than the situation I was just in right now, but our time is up. We weren't able to get over the hump, and we could put our hands up and say, it's all good. We gave it our best shot, just wasn't good enough. And so that's just my only issue with it. Obviously we've seen great teams come and go, and they didn't walk away with no Super Bowls. And I'm afraid that if the Niners don't make a potential move in next offseason for a quarterback, they're going to end up being one of these teams that look back 10, 15 years from now and are sitting there like, damn, we missed out on a key opportunity to go and grab ourselves a quarterback, even if that quarterback wasn't a top 10 quarterback or a top 5 quarterback at the time, to elevate our team and get us over the hump. That's just kind of how I see it.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now Lakes, now that's overkill.